Good morning. It's the motivator here. This is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. How you feeling, people? How you feeling? It's the motivator here. Wow, I've got a fantastic program lined up for you this time round. And it has been truly an inspiring few days since the last time I had direct contact with yourself. It has been fantastic. And what marks this particular period as we wrap up 2025 is an understanding of how much has been achieved. Both the interconnectedness of people that has grown beyond all bounds, the understanding we've promoted amongst people, it has risen beyond our wildest expectations. And more importantly, what is clear that the optimism for the future is justified. Yes, it is justified because together we can make the difference. In unity is strength. And 2025 has been truly an impressive year. So, what follows in approximately 40 minutes will be a panel discussion. Would be assessing 2025 from the, let's get it right, from the business, economic, and technological advancements. Yeah? Those seminal moments which has shaped this year and provided a very firm, a well founded foundation for 2026. Oh, yeah. And I know some of you are aware that this interesting object, which is flying through our solar system, called Three Eye Atlas, which clearly is not a comet, clearly is not a meteorite, is something other than that. All the indications are it is intelligence from another solar system. Yeah, it's true. An intelligence from another solar system. Oh, yeah. I'm excited. We should be excited. You should be excited. Mhm. Why? Because our species, our human family, will have to finally come of age, okay, and behave like a family. That's what we are. Yeah, we are but one human family. Because together we can and we will make the difference. Oh, I want you to absorb that information because it sounds outlandish, doesn't it? Ludicrous, doesn't it? But I simply assert to all those who are the theologians, those who have thought processes which suggest that human beings are the center of the universe. If that were the case, I would have to assert that the universe has a big problem. Huh? Come on now, let's be serious, huh? We cannot be the only intelligence in the universe. Hmm? Hmm. Give it some thought, yeah? Give it some thoughts. And in doing so, you open up your mind to many possibilities. And the many petty differences, so called differences, that exist amongst peoples are but that petty differences. If in doubt, I say to you, if in doubt, ask questions. That's all you need to do. If in doubt, ask questions. Because to inform yourself, to raise your knowledge awareness is, of course, to recognize that we all want better. You want better for ourselves, our families, and our wider networks and communities. That's for sure. We want to assert the principles of the Motivator Show. And just to be clear, just to be absolutely clear, the principles involve morality. Mhm. I said this quite recently to some politicians in other parts of the world. What are your top 10 moral priorities? They had difficulties responding to that question. Let me tell you, let me assure you, they had difficulty responding to that question, which seemed to be a pretty run-of-the-mill question. If a politician doesn't have a set of moral priorities, just imagine their politics. Hmm. Yeah, just imagine. So we would assert that every human being has innate right, here we go, to access fresh, clean, safe water. Mhm. Has an innate right to food, adequate nutrients that they can grow. They have an innate right to a roof, a safe place that they can live in. They have an innate right to good education. Mhm. Best possible education that humanity can provide. That they have an innate right to the best possible health care. Absolutely. An innate right. They have an innate right, and let's get this right for you, okay? Not only to have the best possible education, but to be given the opportunity to develop their skills, their innate skills, yeah? To realize their ambitions. It should not be held back. They have an innate right, he says, to know their parents. An innate right. Mhm. Setting those values, those moral values, yeah, those moral priorities, just a few of them, okay, that will inform the politics. Why am I on this subject right now at this point in the Motivator Show? It just seems pertinent as we start to wrap up the year. For the two panel discussions we've had thus far, the second one you'll have the benefit of in the next 30 minutes or so. What it came down to were those basic moral priorities. And what both of the panel discussions alluded to is an understanding that the politics and indeed social systems that we're currently experiencing could be better. Yeah, could be better. Mhm. And clearly, whilst human societies have evolved to revolve around ruling families, mhm, yep, that's true. Ruling families, that's common to all human families. Actually, it's only tolerable provided those human families, those ruling families, okay, operate for the benefit of the whole and do not hoard the energy, the information, the best of humanity for themselves. Yeah? Therefore, the whole of the human family can grow. And our species, therefore, can advance together in unity is strength. Straightforward logic. I'm trying to avoid long-winded paragraphs, words. Yeah, we all need to understand simple intentions. Yeah, absolutely. 2025 is indeed a seminal year. 2026, I anticipate, will be inspirational, and that's put it very mildly. Why am I saying this? Hey, watch my next podcast. Okay. The next podcast will be my own personal assessment of the evidence based upon what's happened in 2025. My assessment of the year and looking forward to 2026. Mhm. Praise be. Oh, yeah. Praise be. And together we will make the difference. Now it's time for us just to remind ourselves of some of our past contributors who have been truly inspirational and enable the Motivator Show to go from strength to strength. Yeah? I will first of all express my appreciation for those of you here on YouTube who have subscribed or have acknowledged the content either by giving us a thumbs up, there you are, or made a comment, okay, or indeed have subscribed. That allows the YouTube algorithm to spread the word that the contents that we're providing here on the Motivated Show is worth distributing to a much wider audience. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your dedication, for your continued support. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Okay. Thumbs up, or at the very least, leave a comment and most certainly subscribe. It's free to subscribe, and that helps us out a great deal. Again, thank you. Thank you. But the past contributors have been tremendous, okay? And we've had some quite remarkable people. I want to, of course, quickly go through a number of them, very quickly. Anthony Brown, we're calling for a Windrush Act. Thank you, Anthony, for your dedication to the cause, okay? It is highly likely that the new government we have here in Britain has acknowledged that call, okay, and most certainly has kept its promises. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has kept his promises. He has reset the relationship between the Home Office and the Windrush pioneer community here in Britain, who were stripped of their nationhood, okay, by systematic laws of Parliament here in Britain. Okay. But the Windrush Act ultimately will be the cream on the cake to seal the deal and secure those people's future in Britain. But I want to compliment this current government, the Labour government here in Britain. Well done, sir. Well done. Well done. I also want to give a big shout out, of course, to Sonia Brown. Huh? Wasn't she an outstanding human being? Oh my gosh, celebrating Black women, or indeed African women's success. She was erudite, highly intelligent, clearly empathetic, clearly someone we could all relate to. She understood the essentials, how to keep people together, communities together, indeed, the foundations of civilization. Well done, Sonia. We'll keep talking to you. Well, gosh, we'll get you back in again. Don't you worry. We'll get you back in again. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your awareness. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I also want to give praise and recognize Kwabena, okay? And this is really for us to learn the lessons from Superstorm Melissa, learning lessons from Grenada. Mhm. It was really an interesting podcast, I must say. Thank you, Kwabena. Okay. Again, someone else who wants to get back in again. Okay. Very steep lessons. Okay. Those steep lessons are, of course, the places like the Caribbean, indeed, like the majority world South. Mhm, are, of course, suffering the hubris, indeed, ill considered behavior of countries in the north, particularly here in Eurasia, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, mhm, Belgium, Holland, mhm, United States of America, and so on. Okay. Who've pumped into the atmosphere billions and billions and billions of tons. I literally say that, and I mean billions of tons of atmospheric warming gases, carbon dioxide, not, yeah, amongst many. And it's causing the planet to warm up unnaturally, warm up at a rate which is causing disruption to our weather patterns, which resulted in that super hurricane Melissa that impacted the Caribbean only a few months ago. Mhm. And it caused enormous devastations on the island of Jamaica, Haiti, and so on. Therefore, we all have a moral responsibility to ensure that places such as that are able to recover quickly from the devastation not of their creation. And there is a general consensus around that. And I want to thank you from the many letters, the responses I've received to that particular transmission. Thank you for your support. And thank you for acknowledging clearly the evidence and therefore the truth. Thank you. Powerful, powerful, powerful. And I've got to say, I was really encouraged by the responses. Again, thank you to you all. Thank you to you all. Okay. And if that wasn't enough, I wanted to, this is a first, of course. The Jamaican Crown Prince, who is set to lead the Amadi Kingdom in Nigeria. Okay. Jamaican born Crown Prince, who's set to inherit the Amadi Kingdom's leadership, to become the king of that kingdom next year. Sir, thank you for your wise words. It was truly an inspirational podcast. And if reparation is to be truthful, you all will understand this. Reparations begins with self. It's our deliberate action to heal. Mhm. It is our deliberate action, not from someone outside. We've got to decide that healing process shall happen. At point it's easy, other point it is challenging. So I want to thank the traditional leaders across Africa who recognize their critical role in the reparations process. Reparations begins with self. The more than 250 diasporan Africans are being woven back into Africa again. That process of renewal is well underway. Thank you to you all, Your Majesties. Thank you to you all for your wisdom. Ancestors are speaking through you in so many ways. Thank you. And I look forward to speaking to Crown Prince very, very soon. And we will speak again about his efforts to ensure both the burial of the previous king, his wedding, and indeed the coronation will happen unhindered. Thank you. The healing is well underway. Healing is well underway. That deserves a thumbs up, doesn't it? Huh? That deserves a thumbs up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And together we will make the difference. Okay, that's just a few, the tip of the iceberg. My my show will be the next one where I wrap up the year, as opposed to be a panel discussion where I wrap up and show the highlights for 2025. We incorporate hundreds of facts and details, which will truly leave you with a sense of pride and empowerment that justifies the Motivator Show now and into the future. Because together we'll make the difference. In unity is strength. Thank you. What I want to do now is move to the next segment, which is a segment that has gained popularity because it's all about you, the listeners, the viewers. It's all about you. This section addresses public health, your health. Okay. Why is it included? Because it's not enough for us to be concerned about our health, public health. We've got to set a minute and act upon the information. The Motivator Show, from its very premise of the Motivator Show, where we translate our words into action, exemplifies why this segment of this podcast is critical. Lifestyle messages. Across the communities, most certainly the African communities, African heritage communities, here in Britain and Europe, the Caribbean, most certainly, the United States of America, and other places, okay, are being weighed down by illnesses which are avoidable, which are directly linked to lifestyle and nutritional intake. Some of it, and I will get onto this later on in 2026, some of it, of course, is unbeknown to us. So some of the so-called food that we're ingesting, actually is poisonous, dangerous for us. But nevertheless, there are far too many members of the human family, most certainly the African and South Asian human family, who are not paying close attention to their lifestyle and its impact on our health. So the Motivator Show, some years ago, devotes maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes to lifestyle messages. And I know initially there was some resistance to it. I understand. Anyway, I understand. Okay. But now there is a greater understanding why a regular reminder that we must pay attention to our lifestyle to promote good physical, mental, and spiritual health is critical, because these are deliberate actions, raising the awareness for those deliberate actions to protect our health and well-being. So just stay with us for another 5, 6, 7 minutes and watch this section of the podcast, Lifestyle Messages. It's all about you, not me. Yeah, it includes me, yeah, but most certainly it's all about you. I just want to state again, there is no financial gain on my part. I'm not being paid to do this. Yep. I'm not in any way receiving endorsement. I'm not in any way being compelled to give lifestyle messages. We give them these lifestyle messages here on the Motivator Show because we are an integral part of the human community. And it's self evident that we must raise our collective awareness of what is happening and what we're doing to ourselves consciously, usually. Yeah, usually. I say consciously, usually. We can see the difference, but there's most certainly an unconscious component to this lack of awareness. But regular reminder that you all have an intrinsic value. Okay. And if in doubt, ask questions. If you're feeling depressed, seek out help. Mhm. If you're feeling physically weighed down, seek out help. If you're feeling spiritually low, seek out help. Don't just sit there and suffer. Because together we can. Sorry. Together we will make a difference. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So just bear with us for the next 5, 6, 7 minutes or so. Lifestyle messages. And part of these lifestyle messages may require you to get off your chair or whatever you're sitting on and move your body just for a few minutes, only for a few minutes, just to move your body. Because that movement could make all the difference to your general health and well-being. Okay. But don't listen to me. I'm but a spectator, obviously. I want you to hear the words of the professionals, those people who have dedicated their life to promoting our health and well-being. So only for a few minutes, just bear with us and just listen carefully. Okay, we'll get onto the other meaty stuff later on, but just bear with us just for a few minutes. And I know you would agree. You would agree. These messages you're about to hear from the professor are just really common sense messages, but we need to hear it. It's always good to hear. And as we hear it regularly, we can incorporate these messages as part of our being, a part of our consciousness, because together we are and we will make the difference. Here we go. So Kevin Fenton says, I'm a public health director. Here are 5 things you can do to improve your health. 1. Mindful and balanced eating. Nourish wisely. Eat whole, balanced meals with awareness to support energy and well-being. 2. Get outside. Be with nature. Time outside reduces stress, improves mood, and strengthens your connection to the world. 3. Stay curious, stay engaged, explore new interests, keep your mind sharp, build social contacts, and boost your happiness. 4. Get active, move it or lose it. Move daily, lift weight, and do cardio. Exercise, improve physical, mental, mood, and energy. 5. Prioritize rest and sleep. Disconnect, rest. Quality sleep supports mental clarity, emotional balance, and overall health. I think you agree. Common sense advice from a highly trained professional, providing that information for free. Yeah. Common sense advice that we were able to implement will certainly contribute to improving our overall health and well-being. And in doing so, be less weighed down by those illnesses. There's far too many people are currently weighed down. Most certainly here in the African heritage communities and some Southeast Asian communities. Okay, the levels of obesity or fatness is off the charts. Okay, both here in Britain and Europe, most certainly in the Caribbean, where it's clearly evident, particularly amongst women, it is off the chart. It's abnormally high. North America, without a shadow of a doubt, it is off the chart. It most certainly partially down to lifestyle and, of course, the chemicals in the food that we regularly eat. But what is clear, though, that we can take action to reduce these levels of illnesses. Diabetes is another one that I encounter so regularly. One in every other family, one or more members of that family has either obesity or indeed, in other words, fatness, or most certainly diabetes. It's astonishing figures. These are astonishing figures. Here in Britain, billions of pounds is spent on directly treating people with diabetes or indirectly affected by diabetes. In other words, the secondary conditions that diabetes engenders. Billions upon billions of pounds is spent here in the public healthcare system. Okay. Across the Caribbean, the levels of diabetes will be considered to be an epidemic. Yep, it would be considered to be an epidemic. It is without a doubt a clear and present danger. In North America, absolutely, these conditions are weighing down the health and well-being of the communities. But the level of awareness of these conditions and their long-term harmful effect have not been sufficiently discussed, which is why the Motivator Show appears to be unusual. The third condition which seems to regularly appear is, of course, high blood pressure or hypertension. One or other of these conditions exist virtually in every family that I encounter. And this is not a hyperbolic statement. This is facts. This is fact. Far too many people are being weighed down. And for the most part, these are avoidable conditions. So what I'm heartened by is the number of you heard this call, heard and understood the importance of these messages, and have responded, and have come together in common aim and common purpose. Have understood if we work together, we can together promote our general health and well-being. We don't need to be told by others. We understand that our health is our highest wealth. I say again, we understand that our health is our highest wealth. And together, working together, we can work together. And if you're feeling a bit low or a bit weak at the time, hold someone's hand. And together, work with that person. Together, you can work toward improving your general health and well-being. This is not a criticism of you. I want to emphasize. This is not a criticism of you. It really is raising the awareness levels so that you can make decisions, deliberate decisions, to continue to improve our overall health and well-being. Is that not worthy? Is that not worthy of a few minutes here on the Motivator Show? So I'm heartened by is a number of you who have heard the messages, who've come together in common aim and common purpose, recognizing if we work together, exercise together, we can make the difference. I want to show you an example of a group of people who've come together in common aim and common purpose, working together, pulled their resources, hired the facilities, so they now exercise together. And yes, this is the part of the podcast which I might ask you. Well, we can do it on your chair, but I'd encourage you, if you can get up, just watch the screen and just try to imitate some of the movements of these people who've come together in common aim and common purpose. You could refer to them as being inspired human being. You are an inspired human being. You can make the difference. Watch them. Be them. You are this group of people. Here we go. That's right. Come on, get up now. Come on, let's get up. That's it. Just for a few minutes. There we go. Yes, we can make a difference. That's right. Ooh. Oh, I can feel my knees. Oh, yeah. And together, we will. We will make the difference. That's it. That's right. You've got it. Oh. Yeah, stretch your arms. That's right. That's right. I'm stretching my arms. Oh, yeah, I can feel it. Oh, that's right. Ooh, I can feel it. Come on. Oh, can you? Oh, I can see you sitting there. Come on now. Let's do this together. It's only a minute or two. It will make all the difference. Wonderful. That's right. Oh, they're all smiling. All smiling. Oh, yes. Oh, she's enjoying herself. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. There we go. That's right. Oh, she's sweating. Oh, so am I sweating. Oh, there you are. That's right. Oh, yeah. You can make the difference. That's it. Put your knees up. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Oh, they put their children with them. That's what I love. They put their children there. Inculcate in the minds of the children. Exercise is good. That's right. You see that? That's right. You teach them when they're young, in the habit, exercise. You teach a child when they're young to exercise. They take that habit into their adulthood. It will make all the difference. That's right, to make all the difference. That's right. What an Ishmael. There you are. Yes. Last minute or so. There we go. There we go. Oh. Oh, I'm feeling it. Oh, it's good. Oh, yes. And together we're all making the difference. Okay, I've got to pause it there. Oh, there you are. I think you would agree. If you could do that, for what 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes each day, it will make a dramatic difference to your general feelings of health and well-being. Couple that with paying close attention to what you ingest, what you eat. Mhm. I'm assuring you that will make a real difference. Okay. In the first quarter of next year, we'll have a nutritionist, a series of nutritionists come in, discuss with us ideal diets for each one of us, different phases in our life, the ideal diet, okay, coupled with the exercise and with sufficient water, of course, in other words, being appropriately hydrated will make all the difference. It doesn't give you 100% inoculation against illnesses, mind you, but what it will do is promote good health and well-being. Mhm. So you can reduce the incidences of illnesses that are impacting our families. Mhm. Levels of diabetes off the charts, levels of hypertension, high blood pressure off the charts, levels of obesity off the charts. And I, I was challenged only a few days ago if that's true. I would say this to you. If we look at African Americans, for example, and we go back to the 60s, and you look at African Americans in the 60s, particularly during the wonderful soul music era, and then compare the same people today, you'll see that African American women, on average, is heavier than an African American man. In nature, amongst mammals, that's abnormal. That most certainly is not normal and indicates a malaise in that community. Most certainly it's happening to the communities in the Caribbean. Women are heavier than the men, literally heavier. So most certainly it's lifestyle, most certainly it is nutritional, which we need to get to. We need to understand that nutritional component to why obesity has exploded, as it were. amongst the communities in the past 20 years. It's in the past 20 years it's become particularly acute, with all the other side illnesses such as diabetes, high blood pressure, okay, cancers, heart conditions, which are now weighing down the communities. I say this because, look, I say again, there's no financial gain for me. It's simply an observation. There's a moral priority imperative for the Motivator Show to highlight the concern and just spend a few minutes to highlight it. So you'll hear the information. I know the majority will reject the information. I know that's been happening a great deal. It's a turn off for many. I get it. I get it. It doesn't mean that we stop. It doesn't mean that we give up. It doesn't mean that we become downcast. It means that we become more determined to communicate common sense messages that you heard from the professor early on his lifestyle messages, which are simple, straightforward, common sense messages. Mhm. But what I'm heartened by is that you've heard the messages. You understand it's common sense. Okay. You understand their importance for you personally, you intimately, those who are members of your family and your wider network, and have heard the messages and have continued to respond. And to you all, I say thank you for being a part of the recovery, being part of that first step in reparations, self repair. Because you are making the difference and you're preparing the way for the next generation. Mhm. Look, if you're in South London, where I'm based, here in South London, the group I've just mentioned, Countdown, they're based here in South London, and remarkable group of people come together, common aim and common purpose, understanding we work together, we can improve our overall health and well-being. They're based, let me put the details on the screen for you. There you are. Just why don't you reach out? Why don't you join their exercise session? There may be one in your town, in your villages, yep, in your immediate community. That's fair enough. But if you're here in South London, here we're promoting them, why not? You know, they meet every Monday and Wednesday between 6:30 and 8 p.m. It's number 12 Tatum Street, Tatum Street in London. I'll give you what we call our postcode, which is S for sugar, E17 1T for Togo, N for Nigeria. Absolutely. Why not reach out to them? Their email address is countdown 0405@gmail.com. And if you're in the UK, the telephone number is 07960 803 588. I commend the work of this example of Countdown and many others that now exist across Britain, Europe, the Caribbean, the Americas, and beyond. Well done to you all. Have heard those common sense messages. Well done. Well done. There you are. I hope you agree. The inclusion of lifestyle messages in these podcasts is an essential public service. There you go. As we now prepare the way for the important business, economic, and technological 2025 panel discussion. Okay. I just want to give light to two other campaigns to which we at the Motivator Show have aligned ourselves. Now, the first campaign, I think I mentioned it early on, that's of course the Windrush campaign. We want a Windrush Act to protect the interest of those who, for no fault of their own, were stripped of their nationhood, okay, as a result of acts of parliament, okay. And you've heard it said many times, and in fact, I'm going to play the words of a former Prime Minister of Britain, okay. Her name is Theresa May. I may not share this particular former Prime Minister's politics, but the words were said by the Prime Minister of Britain, Great Britain in some circles, okay? This is what she said. Listen carefully.
On Tuesday, I met with Caribbean leaders, where I gave an absolute commitment that the UK government will do whatever it takes, including where appropriate payment of compensation, to resolve the anxieties and problems which some of the Windrush generation have suffered. These people are British, they are part of us, they helped to build Britain, and we are all the stronger for their contributions.
Yep. Former Prime Minister said that, Theresa May. Okay, that was pretty clear. And she said it in public, it's clearly recorded, in front of the Caribbean heads, indeed African heads of states, as part of a CARICOM, indeed, meeting. Okay, it was an important seminal event. Oh yes, you're going to hear that word quite a lot here in the Motivator Show as we run up to 2026. Seminal event. That was an important seminal event. Okay, she said it in public, and therefore that particular government, although it didn't fulfil all of its promises at the time, nevertheless put the government and all future government on a particular trajectory. But what was important, though, that the new Labour government and the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, uttered similar words and noted that, in fact, people of African and Caribbean heritage have made significant contribution to Britain. Okay, community of grafters is what Sir Keir Starmer said. Yeah, I can show you. My mum and dad work incredibly hard. Let me tell you, very, very hard. Okay, we don't always agree, but I'm assuring you they work very, very hard. Both are past now, so I'm grateful for their grafting. Thank you, Sir Keir Starmer, for acknowledging that. But nevertheless, there's still much we need to do. We need to make sure that, in fact, the changes here in Britain that we have alluded to actually happen. I want to thank Anthony Brown for his relentless campaign for a Windrush Act. I know he's made progress. He was a guest here not too long ago. I want to just acknowledge him and put on the screen. And this is the outcome. We're calling for a Windrush Act. Actions speak louder than words. The time for action is now. Translate our words into action. Okay. To be a part of the campaign, contact wdlegal.co.uk. www.wdlegal.co.uk. There it's on the screen. We'll put it in the comment section. Join the campaign to secure the Windrush Act. And together, we will make the difference. Very important. Again, that is a moral imperative. Okay. How can you judge a country if it doesn't protect those who were unjustly treated by that country? Oh, yeah. Well done, Anthony. And we look forward to a further progress update. Thank you. And well done. Keep up the good works. I also now want to, before I go to the main theme for today's show, give light to something, to another campaign. Okay, now, some of you will be aware I've been playing a video by Lee Jasper, okay, which does relate to Hurricane Melissa, that superstorm Hurricane Melissa, where we had winds of more than 185 miles an hour, which devastated part of Jamaica and the Caribbean. I've alluded to it earlier on that the campaign is ongoing. Okay. And there are a number of organizations who are dedicated to this particular cause and have made sure they've established disaster relief funds. Okay. I want to give light to one disaster relief fund and they put it on the screen. And that's, of course, the PNP UK. They've established a disaster relief fund and encouraging those of you with a heart, those of you who have the resources to spare, to give generously so we can rebuild the schools in Jamaica. Okay. And if you can give support, please, here are the details on the school. It's NatWest Bank, sort code 600802, account number 298-61233, and in the bank reference number, if you include DRF Melissa, so we know exactly what it is for. And we want to thank you from the top of our hearts for that dedication. Thank you. Thank you. And well done to those members of PNP UK who've established the fund for your dedication to the cause. And there are other funds. Please, if I'm notified, I'll be happy to note those funds here on the Motivator Show. It's up to you to reach out to us. Okay, up to you to reach out to us. I also now just want to conclude by a short video by Lee Jasper, which, of course, I mentioned to Keir Starmer earlier on, the new Labour government. Of course, this government has committed £7.5 million to giving support to Jamaica. Of course, the repair to Jamaica will run into the many billions. And whilst we're all appreciative of the £7.5 million, we know, Britain could give more. It could be that, of course, Britain is using other methods in order to secure funding for Jamaica, and I'm sure that is the case. But Lee's campaign that the government here makes it public how else it is supporting Jamaica, which has suffered this terrifying hurricane, how Britain is contributing to improve the situation in Jamaica. I'm going to play this short video by Lee Jasper. It does refer to a meeting which is now past, but the essence of the message is not to be lost. It's not lost. Okay, listen to the key and core section of this message. Here we go.
Hey family, my name's Lee Jasper. I'm a veteran activist here from London, England. And I just want to talk about Hurricane Melissa and the British government and the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's response to that hurricane. Family, look, Jamaica and areas of the Caribbean are on its knees. People are desperate, homeless, unable to access medical supplies and treatment. Children are left homeless because their grandmother's house has been completely obliterated. People are unable to go to school. People have no valid forms of employment. And all Britain can offer is £7 million. I mean, it's a disgusting insult to the Jamaican community. And we should be very clear in terms of what our response should be. I'm not sure what we're supposed to say, but thank you to Keir Starmer for 7 million change. I could find more change down the back of this sofa than Starmer seems to have found for Jamaica. And just imagine, people, we spent 20 billion on war for the Ukrainians, 20 billion. And we opened our doors, as we should have done, to victims of war who needed a safe evacuation. But we have exactly the same scenario with people in Jamaica and other areas of the Caribbean, whereby they're homeless, they've got no form of valid long-term employment, they're living on emergency package. Those of us who are in the United Kingdom, who have relatives throughout the Caribbean, should be able to relax our humanitarian visa laws and bring them here so they can have quiet convalescence and respite, care and attention from their families here in the United Kingdom, whilst Jamaica is rebuilding and they can return after that. So we're calling for two things, family, and need your 100% support on this, because once all the Christmas and the emergency stuff has died away, Jamaica is still going to be in a problem, and probably even a bigger problem if the rumoured health outbreaks and epidemics break out as a consequence of lack of sanitation and clean water. And so I'm calling on you to support our petition. You might be able to see the QR code there if I just move to the side. Here is the QR code. Hope it's visible. If not, maybe I can make it more visible. Here is the QR code. All you have to do is put that into your phone and sign the petition. We also have a public meeting on the 12th of December at the engine room in Tottenham Hale. We've done one meeting in Brixton. We're doing another in Tottenham Hale, and we're having another hurricane emergency meeting in Wales, Manchester, as well as Preston. And why are we doing this, family? Because we think we need a national lobby of Parliament on Prime Minister's Question Time to take 5,000, 6,000 of us to Parliament to press the Prime Minister and your individual MP to increase aid to Jamaica, as Dawn Butler's already written in The Guardian to that effect, and we're fully supportive and behind that. To talk to your Prime Minister and MP and lobby them to relax the visa control. How is it that an 8-year-old child whose parents live in the United Kingdom and who was living with her grandmother in Jamaica is denied visa entry on humanitarian grounds to the United Kingdom? But that's what the latest stories we're seeing coming out of The Guardian and other news outlets. So we need a national lobby. Give Jamaica much more aid. 7 million, make that 50 million. How about that? How we make it 50 million pounds next year that the UK government gives to Jamaica to recover. Humanitarian visa restriction? Yes, so that we can give people respite. Because our family, they're our community. And we're here suffering the anxiety of not knowing we can help, but we can't get them into the country. So I'd ask you to support our call on the Prime Minister to increase aid and relax visa applications. And finally, family,
There you are. I'll stop it there. But yeah, well done, Lee. Well done. We are fully in backing of you. What I've got to do, I'll put the QR code back on the screen. There you go. So if you've got your phone, just point it at this QR code. It takes you to the change.org website. So you can sign in support of the lobby to secure additional financial support for Jamaica. It amply deserves that support. There you are. Okay. It's on the screen. I'll put it in the chat for you as well. Keep up the good work, Lee. Hopefully, we'll get an update to that video and we'll take this further. But this is not one we're going to allow to disappear quietly. Okay? And let me just put this here. It's change.org. Britain's 7 million emergency aid for Jamaica and the wider Caribbean is a joke. So that's the title, I know. That's the title, but you can find it on change.org. There you are. And my last quick announcement, I know I'm running slightly later than I wanted, but these announcements are so important because these are reflections of the regular podcast we've had throughout the year. This is a podcast designed to give light to the compassion and the determinations of people to help others. This is the purpose of the Motivator Show. You know, there is no hubris here. I want to give light to a particular issue which is not generally discussed. And this might surprise some of you, but I was reminded again only in the past few days as to why it is important. Okay? This is going to surprise you, but I'm going to say it. Across the world, more than 200 million women and girls are FGM survivors. Yep. And those of you who do not understand what the FGM stands for, that stands for female genital mutilation. I was reminded only these past few days, I encountered a woman who is indeed an FGM survivor. And she asks, as women tend to, wise women tend to, well, why have I not mentioned this on the podcast recently? And I couldn't offer a satisfactory reason other than scheduling. I know. She'd asked simply, without any force, without any aggression. It was simply, from time to time, it would be nice to know that women who are suffering, she's suffering, are not suffering in silence, that they're not the unforgotten. They're not the unforgotten. Mhm. Can you imagine being forgotten? That what happened to her, because she's now in her early 40s, I believe, or thereabouts, you know. But this happened to her, apparently, when she was 8 years old. So every cut of the knife was felt. Right. Just to think about it, I have daughters, you know. Just to think about such a thing being done to my own daughters is beyond the pale. And some of you we know are aware that I've not only have I had guests here discussing this subject, I've been trying to organize a podcast, not of women, but of men. Men. To ask the question of men, do you really want your wife to have undergone this procedure, which then causes a lifetime of pain and ache? Mhm. And are told by men, usually, that they mustn't talk about it. It's, it's taboo, but yet they're suffering, unnecessary suffering. A former mayor of a municipality here in, I say municipality, forgive me, a local council here in London. Her name is Councillor Naima Ali. Is indeed an FGM survivor. She set up an organisation called Unshackled Duma. Here we go. I'll put it on the screen for you. There you go. She's the former mayor of Southwark. In other words, the first citizens of the borough. She'd established Unshackled Duma, which is he says Southwark-based, actually London-based organisation that empowers women and girls, particularly from Black and Asian, so-called minority ethnic communities, Muslim communities. The organisation's its purpose is, of course, to promote self-empowerment and advocacy with strong emphasis on combating female genital mutilation, FGM. It raises awareness about FGM's harmful effects, and supports survivors toward eradicating the practice. If you know of a woman or would want to know more about this particular, I call it a procedure, but this particular custom has become embedded in some communities across Africa and some parts of Asia, why not reach out to Councillor Naima Ali? And the email address is unshackledduma, followed by number 2 at gmail.com. It's on the screen. Unshackledduma, followed by digit 2 at gmail.com. I commend this initiative to you. And well done, Councillor Ali. Well done. Well done. Absolutely. I said, these are our purpose of the Motivator Show, to raise awareness of these campaigns. There's much happening in the communities. Real good is happening in the communities. There's no reason to be downcast or depressed about the future. The future is bright. The future is what we make of it. Praise be. Praise Jah, Rastafari. And we are the change makers, as King Kabbalah would say, of the African Continental Unity Party, the Pan-Africanist Party across continental Africa. You are the change makers. You have it within your gift to transform lives, but you have to make that conscious decision. It's not someone from the outside granting you the wish. It is you making that deliberate decision to recognize that we are change makers. We can improve the condition of all humans, of all life forms on our planet. We've got to make that conscious decision. And together, we will make the difference. In unity is strength. All righty, all righty. It's now time for the panel discussion. So this panel discussion is focusing on 2025, business, economic, and technological advancements, those seminal moments that have occurred in 2025, okay, across Africa and the Caribbean and wider afield. But those are the areas of particular focus for this panel. And I must say that we simply ran out of time. Within the time allotted, it is well. It is well. We may have to, in fact, it's highly probable we'll have to go to a part 2. But this is part of a series of panel discussions. The first panel discussions you heard early, last podcast, focused on politics and social seminal moments that have occurred in 2025. The panel discussion we're about to hear is, of course, focused on business, economic, and technological advances, those seminal moments in 2025. The panel discussion that will follow this one is, of course, exclusively for women and girls, but most certainly women, for us to receive a feminine, a women perspective or across issues across the board in 2025. And I'm assure you that will be an in-depth, powerful experience. I'm assuring you, because we need to listen carefully to the views of women, particularly young women who are able to give birth. We absolutely need to listen to their needs because we need to rebuild our families. So we need to listen carefully to women. And last but not least, the future. The last panel discussion will be centered around young people between the ages of 18 and 35. Now, note, Captain Ibrahim Traore, the president of Burkina Faso, sir, okay, fell within that category of being a youth between 18 and 35 when he became the president of Burkina Faso by public affirmation. Mhm. It's because the people recognize his energy, determination to transform Burkina Faso, the land of the upright people, upright men. And indeed, we need to get the leaders back in the studio because in 2025, the strides that country has made has been tremendous. And also, of course, we need to get the leaders of communities here in Britain, from Niger and Mali, because I'm assuring you, we'll be equally impressed by the progression that occurred in those countries, the Sahel states as they're referred to. Oh, yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for the being a token pole for hope and prosperity for all peoples of the world, not just simply Africans. Well done. I know they're trying to knock you down, but I know you're prepared for every attempt. Your resilience is commendable. We want you to continue to go from strength to strength. 2026 is your year for continued growth. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. For Captain, indeed President, Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. Well done, well done, well done. All righty. It's now time to go to this panel discussion. Okay. Now, just to be aware, what you're about to hear is not the entire discussion. We went on for some time. Okay. But it was full, detailed, and you receive opinions of people from right across the board on business, economics, and technological advancements in Africa and the Caribbean in particular. Okay. It was truly powerful, quite moving. I learned a great deal. So what you're hearing is but a snippet of the entire panel discussion. The entire panel discussion will be re-edited and reproduced and formally launched on Monday. Okay, so watch this space on Monday. If you're in receipt of the notifications, please, if you haven't subscribed to the to this channel, I urge you to subscribe, and you will, of course, receive notification of when the next podcast is posted. Okay. In fact, we put it on the screen for you. There you are. Put this on the screen for you. You can subscribe to the channel. We want you to. It's important that you do so. You help us to grow our listenership, our viewership, by telling the YouTube algorithm that the content is worthy of spreading to a much wider audience. Again, thank you for your support. We thank you for your support because together we will make the difference. There you are. But most certainly give us the thumbs up. You can make comments as you listen to the panel discussion. Okay. But don't forget to encourage your family, your friends, your network, the wider communities. Share the link with them to this podcast so we could continue to spread the word. As I say again, this panel discussion is being re-edited and will be formally launched as a podcast series on Monday. Okay, on Monday, and that's of course the 22nd of December. Okay, okay. In fact, let me put. There we go. Let's now get into it. Watch this space. This will be truly an inspirational experience. And if in doubt, ask question. Here we go. Welcome. This is the Motivator Show. This is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. Today's podcast, I've got a group of most distinguished African people. Look at them, please, people. Look at them on the screen. There you go. Huh? Isn't that energy? Huh? There you are. Yeah? Hey, the origins of mankind, they say. But today's show, what we will look at is really the fundamentals of life here in the 21st century, Africa and the Caribbean. Okay. We're going to look at it from the point of view of business and technological advancement that has happened in 2025. In 2025. A great deal has happened in 2025. You could argue that 2025 has been a useful launch platform, of course, for 2026, in which we'd expect even greater leaps forward to occur. Okay. This panel of distinguished Africans will look at some of these events, activities that some of my guests may have a direct involvement in, and they will share their opinions, what has happened to date. Is it sound? Is it firm? Is it sustainable? These are some fundamental questions my guest will address. Okay. So what I'm going to do, as is my custom here, is to invite my guests to introduce themselves, to say their names, their organization. But, this is the Motivator Show. So I'm also going to ask them to say, well, an event, a seminal event or activity they had direct involvement that may well have shaped for them 2025. And this is going to be a very useful exercise, but I always find to discovering what has most impact a person, okay, or persons, usually provides a useful insights as to that person's, well, inspirational qualities. And that's why the Motivator Show exists. So I'm going to go to the gentleman. In fact, we've got more than one gentleman more. The gentleman with the very serious white beard. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes, it's that time of year for some people. Yeah. Okay. The gentleman with a very distinguished white beard. But he's been on the Motivator Show previously. He's an inspired African. Sir, I'm going to invite you to just say your name, organization, and what has inspired you in 2025. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Olushola Oni. By profession, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and I have the traditional title of Baashegu, which translates to a master surgeon, really, in English. I am the founder and the leader of the Yoruba Party in the UK. The purpose of the party, the reason why I set up the party, was to provide a political voice for the UK Yoruba community. As far as I'm aware, the Yoruba Party is probably the only African-based ethnic party in Europe or in the world. In terms of the seminal moment for us, or for me, and for us as a party, was the fact that we have taken the British government to court at the administrative court in London to force them or to compel the government to act in accordance with the 1888 Britain-Yoruba Land Treaty. Most of you have probably not heard about that treaty, but it was a non-session treaty of trade and friendship, and the trade was supposed to be preferential trade. And what we are trying to get the court to do by way of judicial review is to compel the British government to act in accordance with that treaty. We believe that that treaty is very important in the sense that it is one of those that established the legal relationship between Britain and Yoruba land as an indigenous nation. And we think this is important.
Okay.
And what has happened in history is that after the treaty was signed and ratified, Britain then decided to frustrate the legitimate expectations. And this is very important because the incorporation of Yoruba land into Nigeria was unlawful. Britain did not own Yoruba land, and yet Britain incorporated Yoruba land into Nigeria. And what we are trying to do is really for the courts to establish that legal relationship, that legal trade relationship. If there are any questions in the future, I'll be happy to answer them. I have my own views about how I think the economy of Africa should go. I hope that I'll be able to enunciate or describe my thoughts.
Yes.
Later on.
Thank you.
very much.
So, but I'm not going to let you get away with not telling us the seminal moment for 2025. So.
You want me to say that I stood election?
That was not in 2025, of course. In 2025.
Oh yeah, that was 2024, wasn't it? Yes,
indeed.
I mean, this year the seminar movement, as I said, is because we on the 8th of August, 2025, we were able to take the government to the administrative court in London.
Okay. Thank you. If I may now go to Sheldon.
Oh, I thought you could have down the pecking list. Okay.
Oh, come on now.
Okay, so I'm Dr. Sheldon St. Clair. I work in the project management industry. I've been doing so for about 30 years now. For the past, and I run my own project management consultancy services. For the past 4 years, with the advent of AI, I've been an enthusiast and evangelist in how AI can be used, or AI tools can be used to help you in whatever job you're doing, whatever business you're running, and whatever it is you want to achieve. I think kind of AI is really, to me, it does level the playing fields for individual efforts. And I know there's lots of pros and cons and risks and dangers and scare stories, but I truly believe that it's a tool for good. That's kind of like my view. In terms of kind of like seminal moments, it's really about evangelizing the use of AI. I've written books on the subject, written articles on the subject. I've appeared as a panelist at round table events, summits, basically talking about AI, mostly AI and project management, because that's really kind of like my skill set. But and I'm now kind of like ventured into writing tools for businesses and how they can kind of like incorporate that into. But yeah, it's really about kind of utilizing AI, and because of that, I've been kind of like awarded things about the work, in recognition of the work that I'm doing in that field.
Brilliant. Thank you. In the final version of this, we'll have details of your books on screen. Don't you worry. For now, it's fine.
Probably not. But
well, we'll see.
You know me, kind of like
Jose.
Yeah, thanks a lot for this, brother. Thanks for the invite. Joe Santiago, based in London. We run this organization called Umoja Generation Wealth, which is purpose is to train and educate African and African descendants in matters of creating prosperity under Ubuntu principles. So this is what we've been doing for the last, this organization, the last 6 years. With regards, this year, we organized our second Ubuntu Awakening Summit, which took part in São Tomé Principe for people who know in West Africa. The first one was last year in Jamaica. And the purpose of this is actually sending the message that we should reverse the triangle of enslavement of our people. So the Europeans did the Europe, Africa, and the Americas. Now we are doing the reverse, which is the Europe, the Americas, and the Africa. So we went to Jamaica, pick up our brothers and sisters. This year we left them in São Tomé. Next year we're going to Brazil to pick them up and bring them to Ghana. The following year we go to Haiti, pick them up and bring them to Congo, etc., etc. With regard to seminal, is I would say publication of 2 books of mine in February. Well, for those who wants to see, one of them and the most important one is the Communalism, the Economics of Empathy, and the other one was Asset Protection Against Divorce Claims, Government Taxes, and Expenditure. So those are seminal moments for me as an individual. That's it.
Thank you very much indeed. That was very, very clear. So I'm going to go directly to Dr. Carlton in that case.
Martin, thank you so much for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be on your panel this evening, today. So my name is Dr. Carlton Brown. I'm a consultant by day, but also I'm responsible for the UK Black Business Entrepreneur Conference, which is now going into its 5th year. And it's designed to advocate for Black economics and Black entrepreneurship in the UK, and to give access to greater opportunities and access to finance and markets and networks. We stand on 3 pillars, which is to empower our community and to share stories about what we do and how we do things, because often the narrative is not always a positive story. So we want to see entrepreneurs who are successful and we can be inspired by, but also to engage both the public, private, and third sectors and allies and partners, and also to educate. So every part of what we do is also as an educational piece. Our seminal moment was the UK conference for this year, where we had speakers such as Afua Hirsch, Yolanda Brown, Thomas Robson Kanu, an ex-professional footballers, come and speak to the audience, Lord Michael Hastings. So we're very proud of the work we're doing. We've written the Black Entrepreneur Report, but also part of that we also launched pre-launched my book, which is called The Race Paradox: Why Organizations Fail on Race. So thank you for that. Just a quick insight to what I did.
Thank you very much, and we may probe some of what you've said later on if we've got time. But Professor Earl, can you hear us all right? We can't see you right now. Professor Earl?
Yes, I'm hearing now.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes, are you hearing
can I ask
me?
you? Yes, we can. Can I ask you, Professor, just to say your name, organization, and you might want to share with us a seminal moment in 2025, an important moment in 2025. Your name, organization, and seminal moment. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, first of all, let me express my gratitude to be invited among this very excellent panel. And I hope that your readers will be intrigued by the discussions that My name is Earl Taylor. In academic terms, I'm professor. And in diplomatic terms, I'm the honorary consul for Jamaica. I've had a fairly diversified preparation for my journey, having spent 12 years in the UN system at director level, working across Africa and across the globe, actually. But I was also a senator in Jamaica, borrowed to Namibia, and that was the end of my senatorship. So I have immersed myself in Africa from the east to the west, a little of the central, So I've seen quite a lot of changes, and probably most importantly, over the last couple of months, I have been advocating for the Africa that we want to start now. I'm a member of the Global Black Center in Ethiopia, Global Black Center for African Heritage and Education. And I'm the president for the Graduate Institute for Leadership and Professionalization in Namibia.
Yes. And that is just the beginning of the professor's credentials. And is grossly understating, yet another one of my guests, grossly understating his credentials. Professor, thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you very much. Okay. I want to now move straight into our dialogue panel. And in advance, just for the benefit of the audience, I've sent the panel references for each month of 2025. It was jam-packed with various references. I was told it was quite a lot, okay? But I've found in this business of podcasting and sharing information that thorough research is essential. Now, but of course, the research we've conducted here at the Motivator Show is subjective. Okay, the group of us, it is subjective, and it is therefore open to interpretation. But there is an observation we've made that Africa, and indeed the Caribbean, is on the move, definitely on the move. And there is significant social, economic, and technological change underway. In order for that to happen, of course, there are institutions, homegrown institutions, which are, as it were, at the pinnacle of the changes, the innovation that's taking place. And one such organization we've identified, and I'll leave the panel to comment as they wish on this, and that is, of course, the Afrixim Bank. That's AFREXIM Bank, Afrixim Bank. It appears, according to its shareholders, to be wholly African-owned. The financing is from Africa and the Caribbean, indeed African Americans as well. Okay, and it has a very clear purpose, which is really sets out the cornerstone for this dialogue. And I would want to quickly summarize some of the key statements that this bank would make. And this for you. So its vision is to transform Africa's trade. Indeed, within that, it also includes the Caribbean trade. Okay, its mission, again, for the benefit of the panel, to stimulate a consistent expansion, diversification, and development of African trade while operating as a first-class, profit-orientated, socially responsible financial institution and a center of excellence in African trade matters. That makes perfect sense to us as part of our research. It operates under four pillars at its strategies. And I'll just quickly summarize the pillars, then I'll move to the panel, their opinion. Its shared purpose is to stimulate a consistent expansion and diversification of African trade, so to rapidly increase Africa's share of global trade, and in doing so, to operate as a first-class, profit-orientated, socially responsible financial institution and a center of excellence in African trade matters. And our shared vision is to consolidate the bank as the trade finance bank for Africa. There we go. And the four pillars are as follows. 1, facilitate industrialization and export development. 2, strengthen trade finance leadership, good entrepreneurship. 3, improve financial performance and soundness. Okay. And indeed, the success will be defined by the satisfaction of the stakeholders, in other words, the countries or the stakeholders, through increased trade and finance, improved facilitation of intra-African trade, and value-added export and improvement in our financial performance. There you go. When we read this as a team here, the research team here at the Motivator Show, we're in total agreement. It seems sound, wholly African. Therefore, it's a Pan-African institution dedicated to promoting industrialization of Africa, to create jobs, to spread wealth amongst the people. Okay. All right. That seems pretty clear to us. Okay. But we wonder what the panel might say to all of that. Okay. It's in the references we've supplied to you. And if I may go to the panel and if I may begin, let's see now. If I can begin, if I may, with Sheldon. Sheldon, would you have an opinion on what I've described?
Thank you. I think it's a good idea if it allows ordinary businesses to participate in growth. So the question will be the scaling and the infrastructure efforts in terms of the pipeline. But I think it's a great idea. I wonder how the payments will be routed between borders. Is it going to still go via Europe and America, attracting fees, which is part of the problem that we have at the moment? Or will the payments go from bank to bank and therefore reduce fees? So it's really kind of like my query will be about the infrastructure or the route that payments between businesses, between individuals, between countries, how that's kind of like enacted. But I think that the primary kind of like goals, I feel, will bring equity to small businesses, and that can only be a good thing.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. If I could now go to Dr. Oni, can I ask you please to comment on the clear mission, vision, and strategy of the African Bank?
Thank you very much. What I have written down here, as you are talking, was I put down the word access. Because it's all right to have lofty ideals. How do the ordinary African access this bank? And that is going to be a very, very big problem. I mean, as our discussion goes on, I presume we are going to talk about economy in general, the sort of economy that will make Africa prosper.
Okay.
And what worries me here is the question of access, which I've put down.
Okay.
I've also written down here, I may well have copied somebody else in our pre-recording discussion. I've put down here Western model. So those are the two things that I've put down. The first one was access to the ordinary African, in the village from where I come, and also what worries me is the fact that what this sounds to me like, I might be totally wrong here, and and I would like to be corrected, is that we are simply, or this bank is simply replicating the Western model. And as I said, if anybody thinks I'm wrong, please let me know. I will stop there and then see what everybody else says. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. it's possible that Professor Earl might respond to those particular questions, but Professor Earl, can I ask you to go next?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In 2022, I introduced AFREX to the Caribbean. Personally, I spoke with the president, and I organized for him to be present in Jamaica at a Foreign Affairs and Tourism Ministers Summit. That was the first introduction of AFREX to the Caribbean. Subsequently, there have been meetings in Addis Ababa, the CARICOM Africa Summit. There have been meetings in 24 in Guyana. To follow up on these activities. But let me just say two things. And the last speaker identified an issue that we have to be very careful we do not replicate. I've seen it. My experience takes me from development banking. I was a director of the development bank, the finance venture capital, and I've advised governments and leaders about development banking as distinct from commercial banking. And a lot of the development banks here have misunderstood what development banking is about. I hope that we do not make the same mistake with AFREX. I'm a professor in entrepreneurship, strategic management, and public policy. I say that just to say this. Development has two components. You have the industry and you have trade. Trade is the channel to convey industry if you have products to sell. Otherwise, you're going to convey other people's products into your own economy and anywhere else. So industrialization is a deliberate strategy to build and grow value chain and added value locally. We are not talking about, there are a few countries now talking about added value, but value chain and added value are two different things. So you have to identify in the products and the minerals that you have, or it could be value added in services that you develop competencies in. So you have to identify the value chain and then the added value that is possible within the comparative and competitive fields. And that is where you get industrialization becoming effective. That is where development comes. And one of the things that I have concern about the AFREX is that its linkages are not sure. The structure and linkages that it has is not clear. By that I mean you have to have a national, a regional, and a continental payment system that is sufficiently linked and influencing the conventions that have been inherited by these national and regional payment systems. And so we have to identify how payment is going to be made by the borrowing country or the receiving country. And we should not put more burden on them by asking them to have a currency that, whether it's dollar or so and so. We must find a mechanism to link distance, whether it's digital or so on, so that we can facilitate trade. The second thing I want to just mention is that trade is an important instrument for development, but we need to encourage and develop infrastructures for trade. We have, for example, road systems that are not developed or connected sufficiently. We have air routes that are not developed at all. And there are certain goods that you need to develop air routes that can convey and make it competitive and comparative for trade to develop. Tourism is another product that Africa has a lot of products, tourism products, that could be harnessed and sold. But the strengthening of it and the links with its culture is not clear. So trade and services, the facilitation of trade and services have to be looked at in a holistic way, in a system that is sufficiently linked and structured. And you have to have some strategic direction where not all countries are going to participate in the first level, but you identify those that are able and ready, and then you support them with strategies and things that will make them improve to attract others into it. So that
Professor,
I will.
that's right. That's right. Because we're really focused on this particular bank and its stratagems and your opinions whether or not these are the right strategies that are outlined, which is in its public documents. And thank you for that. And I will get back to the questions of payments and whether or not it's available to consumers, regular bank residents, in a moment. But before I do that, I will go to Jose. I've outlined the vision of the Ethics Bank. I've also outlined the strategy of the bank, and the reason why we've cited this particular institution because it appears to have a presence in, if not all, vast majority of the 54 countries across the continent of Africa and indeed the Caribbean. Okay, and it appears to have significant African governmental funding as its base, and the investment is, if not the most extensive investment in the continent, it's most certainly in the top 5. That's for sure. What say you, Jose, on this particular institution in its desire? And I'm going to use the term, they may not use it, it doesn't appear in their document, but I'm going to use the term, this Pan-Africanist vision for Africa. Greater trade, greater prosperity, increased job opportunities, and of course, it should ensure that the infrastructure for Africa, both road, rail, and telecommunications, and so on, it's fit for the 21st century. What say you, Jose?
Thanks a lot for the question. Look, as a vision and strategy, I totally agree. And I believe all my colleagues here agree as well. Now, if we are on the road, or if the bank is doing it right now or not, is a bit. I would raise some questions. For example, only owned by Africans. Well, I've got my reservation, because what is doing the Standard Bank, what Bank of India is doing there, what is Bank of China is doing there. So only owned by African, I've got my own questions on that. I would say again, for us to be able to align fully with that strategy, mention all my previous colleagues who have spoken. For example, it is still a dollar-denominated bank. So basically, you do everything in dollar or any hard currency, which if we go to Sheldon comment, or it means that any African sending money or trading with one country to another lose up to 50% just on this currency playbook, manipulation, if you like. And the US and Britain are making money without doing anything. So this is one thing which would still curtail or reduce the impact of the bank in its strategy and the thing. So that come, with the PAPs that we have spoken about here very briefly. Maybe PAPs can do the job, maybe not. We'll still to see. The other thing which I still have a greater concern of, the last time I checked African, the transactional support is much more of import than export. Maybe I'm wrong, but if somebody here got the more recent data, please let me know. And that comes to Professor Taylor, what he just said with regards to added value, regards to the value chain and all the rest of it, because unfortunately, Africa is still an import continent. Okay, as an import continent, and having a bank which is dollar denominated, anybody could understand that African bank can have a beautiful vision, but is not able to do that while we are where Africa is. The other thing, for example, which was mentioned again that we need to take into consideration is the credit assessment. It's not just credit of the individual going to apply or business requesting credit from the bank, but more importantly, what model are used, what framework of credit assessment is used. Is it using what? Is it using what is the name that they call them? Finch? Is it using one of those Experian of those people? What framework is used? Because as far as I know, Africa hasn't got one. If Africa hasn't got one, or at least working, that means that we are also glued to the Western system, which basically means that we work and they make the profit. And going beyond that, obviously, there is a lot more to see in terms of the bank being able to help the people or help the business to create wealth, to create prosperity that we are talking about. So one thing is talking, another thing is what is on the ground.
Okay, beautiful. And thank you for that. That's useful insight. And I am, and indeed, we are going to reach out to officers from the bank to appear here on the Motivator Show. So they would have heard your questions, but I can respond at least in part to some of the observations made. And the first point is that this bank, of course, is not your consumer bank. This is for governments and big business. Okay, that's so we're clear. This is for big infrastructure projects. This is for the railway line, the roads, the sewers, the fundamentals that enables trade to take place. Okay, so it's that type of bank. It is not intended for consumers. And secondly, and I think you are right, but depending upon timing, we'll get to the payment system. Well done, Sheldon. We'll definitely get to the payment system, because clearly the dollar system is harmful to Africa's long-term interest. I'm going to say it clear and unambiguously. It is harmful. The Americans have demonstrated that they will use the dollar as a weapon if you fall out of favor with them, and therefore they have effectively undermined the dollar as the reserve currency in the future. That's for sure. So we are most certainly heading towards a multipolar world. In other words, there are a number of key currencies that, as it were, rule the world. And of course, the Chinese currency, the yuan, is clearly going to be one of those. Third point I just want to make here, that it is important, therefore, that we increase trade across the continent. I believe, Dr. Brown may have this, or others may have this, or the press will have the figures, but I understand that intra-African trade, or Pan-African trade, let's use that term, shall we, it's only around 7%. I think that's the last figure I've seen. Professor may have the count figures, 7%. The rest is export out. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. And the whole point of the stratagem set up by the African Bank is to increase intra-African trade, and trade, of course, with the Caribbean islands. Okay, so I think we're all in favour of it. I think all in favour. It's the right direction. We just want to see regular updates as to progress. Professor, am I right in saying that the percentage of trade within Africa is around is less than 10%? I'm sure that's the case. Am I right?
Yes, it varies between 5 and 7.5%.
There you go.
And to the point you made, you can't trade if you have nothing to sell.
Indeed.
So you have to have something to sell. And there's a big error that we're making. And I speak to our leaders, I train our leaders. There's a mentality shift that we're expecting. We talk about, every time we talk about job creation, that's fine, that's fine. But in nuts and bolts, if you are able to add value locally in products and services, trade services form a big part of the support logistics. And there's a tendency to forget it. We have trade in cultures. We have trade in creative assets like music and so on. And that is something that we have not developed sufficient in Africa. But to get back to the point that you're making, is that we need to have a higher level of industrial value added created. And that means our industrial and trade policy to be redeveloped, redesigned.
Yes. And Professor?
And they have to be linked. If they point, there's going to be a diversion because the objectives are not the same. But if you have an integrated trade and industrial policy, just like Japan did, Japan Inc., the industry supports the trade and the trade supports the industry. And together they sell and market and promote the country. So I'm seeing the need, and I just did a paper on the need for Namibia, for example, that is putting a lot of emphasis on job creation. But what it really is doing is added value, find out how we can incentivize the value chain. And there are some parts of the value chain that will be beyond a small country. So you get other countries, neighboring countries, you can use a sovereign wealth fund to invest. Let's take, for example, Congo. Congo, its capacity to develop the value chain and to add value is very limited. But as we are into Africa comes, and there are some wealthy Africans looking for opportunities without harassment and impedances to invest in future technologies. And so this is where you're going to get employment. But if you're going to just look at employment creation, then you're going to be sad at the end of the day when only a few people or at the bottom gets employed. You need people to be involved in the development from the low to the high level value addition.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you. Can you hear us? No? Professor, can you hear us?
Yes.
Ah, you can. All right. Okay. Thank you for that explanation. We missed part of it, but it is fine. The substance, I believe, the message being received, and thank you for that overview. And that was that was in the month of January, and we've set out the stratagem being employed by the African Bank, which appears to be making major investment in infrastructure investment right across the continent and the Caribbean. But an outcome of this discussion, this dialogue, is that you'd like to see greater local currency usage, you should not be using the dollar as your intermediary currency. I think that's a clear message, and I suspect, depending upon time, we may address that particular issue. The various payment systems that are now gaining ground across the continent. But if I may, I want to take us into February very quickly, and this is the big one, if I may suggest. And what I note, in February, quite a number of important conferences took place. The first conference that I note is that the African and Caribbean Trade and Investor Forum officially got underway. Okay, and that highlights African Caribbean economic cooperation and business growth initiative. Okay, that was an important. I'm going to pause it there. As I said, that is just the start of our discussion. Much more was discussed, but it was an incredible learning experience. We all learned from each other a great deal. And as I said, we all re-edited the final version for publication on Monday, the 22nd of December. Okay, we didn't hear enough from Dr. Carlton Brown, which we need to correct, but it was certainly proved to be an inspirational experience. I want to thank the contributors on that panel. Well done, each and every one of you. Well done, well done, well done. Such panel discussions, of course, bring to light of the progress, enormous stride is underway. I heard this term recently, the revolution will not be televised, and indeed, it is not being televised, that's for sure. But there is real change, real reason for optimism across Africa and the Caribbean. And of course, Africa, with its youngish population, average age of 19. Incredible, huh? Quite incredible. Is, of course, going to set the tone for the rest of this century. And Africa, of course, is the only continent where you will see population growth, okay? And it is estimated that the next 50 years or so, the current 1.4 billion people will increase to 2.5 or more billion people, or indeed beyond by the end of the century. Up to 3 billion people, in fact, will be the case. So that's where the action is. Okay? That's where the growth is. And all countries that want to secure growth for themselves will indeed must trade with Africa. So it is incumbent upon Africans, of course, to ensure these structural the remediation actions are take place. Good communications, that is road, rail, airport communications across the continent, both north, south, east, west, okay, are essential. That there's good governance, of course, good public services, so that all Africans can thrive. Okay. That simply takes not words, but action. Much of this is common sense. We started the podcast common sense statements, but of course it requires focus, consistency, determination, and together we could transform the outlook. We're very, very optimistic for the future. But this particular panel most certainly was an eye-opener. Okay. It is anticipated after 22nd when we publish the entire discussion, and you'll see many references, graphs, and other points on the screen to help you to follow the descriptors provided by the panelists. Okay. What follows this particular panel will be the views of women, African women, both in Africa, Europe, the Caribbean, and in US. The views of women. This is one we must all pay close attention to. Because if there's a social change that occurred in my lifetime, this goes back to 50s and 60s, to today is the role of women and women participation in society. Mhm. And recognizing that regardless of gender, we have equal intelligence. It is true, of course, that males are amongst the most stupid human beings, and indeed amongst the most forward-thinking, intelligent human beings amongst the males. Our extremes are far more acute as males than are apparently when we look at female intelligence quotients. Okay, and that has an important sociological impact. Okay, society would not function, could not thrive without women. And therefore, we must pay close attention to the views of women. Okay. This is in no way to suggest that men are deliberately oppressing women. I want to emphasize that. But we must pay close attention to women and their needs and wants. Okay. There's clearly fundamental biological differences between the genders, which reflects our societies. Those that thrive understand those biological differences and use it and ensure those biological differences are an asset and not a burden to societies. But I'm anticipating when we record the podcast with women of all ages, okay, it will be truly an inspirational experience. And if you're a woman and you believe you have a contribution to make to the panel, we're happy to receive your self-nomination, or you may be someone who you've discussed it with in advance, I hope, but you'd like to suggest that they can join the panel. We can give you maybe 24 hours or so to respond to this email address. Send your nomination for women to join our women's panel to discuss women's views of the seminal moments in 2025 from a social, economic, business, technological point of view. So the social, of course, is quite critical. Quite critical. We want to understand women's views of the changes, those seminal moments that have occurred in 2025. So if you are a woman, or you know of a woman, you've spoken to her in advance of, put the name forward. What we need is a telephone number, email address, and send that nomination. It can be self or indeed recommendation. Okay. The Motivator Show 501 at gmail.com. I repeat, the Motivator Show 501 at gmail.com. Okay. Put that name forward. There you are. I'll put it on the screen again. There you are. You got it there. We'll be very interested to speak with the woman. We'll decide the optimum number that we should include. But I want to keep emphasizing, we must listen to the views of women. Mission critical. Africa, indeed, world civilization will not grow, will not thrive, unless we take into account the views, attitudes, and desires and wants of women. Praise be, praise be. There you are, there you are. So that was an important one. And the last, we're going to emphasize the last panel discussion, which will be in the new year, most probably, but here we go, will be the views of young people. I say again, between the ages of 18 and 35. Okay. That I anticipate will be a hard-hitting, direct, in-your-face assessment of 2025 and a view to 2026. Okay. I've spoken to a number of them already. They're not shy. Okay, they're not shy, and they have a view. Okay, of my generation. Okay, and we've just got to listen and learn from them. Okay, we've got to be tolerant enough to listen, disciplined enough to hold our tongues and listen and learn. Again, if you're a young person between the ages of 18 and 35, or you wish to nominate someone, but you spoke to them in advance, please, we'd like to hear from you. Again, here's the email address. Send your self-nomination or nominated person details to the Motivator Show 501 at gmail.com. gmail.com. Would like to receive your nomination. We can receive that by Monday, and that's Monday the 22nd. That'll be excellent. And we'll then decide the final panel lineup. If we could achieve a balance between males and females, that'd be excellent. Okay, but we'll see how it goes. But we're expecting the last but not least panel, the youth panel between ages 18 to 35, be truly a hard-hitting assessment of 2025, and I'm sure contain a series of demands for 2026. Some people, particularly my generation, be hard to listen to. Nevertheless, it's critical, mission critical, to listen to the views of our young people. Watch this space. Watch this space. There you go. Watch this space. And I just want to say this to you all. That I want to express my appreciation for your support. Please spread the word. Please spread the word. I want to express my appreciation for it. It's been a truly thoroughly enjoyable year, I have to say. The next podcast will be my own assessment of what has happened in 2025, those seminal moments. Okay, right. I believe I've identified quite a number of important milestone events, as it were. Okay, milestone events that will set the foundation and direction for 2026. Some interesting personalities I've come across, both on the show and indeed who I'm admiring from afar, I have to say. And I will give you a hint of one person. I don't mind saying this because she has demonstrated remarkable abilities. And that is the president of Namibia. I'll tell you more in our next podcast. Okay. But I'll say in conclusion, before I leave you all now, that these podcasts would not have any reason to happen if it wasn't for you. You've heard the messages, you understand their intent, okay, and you've stayed with it. That is the will that we need as a community, as a civilization, if we're to move forward, listening to each other, responding to each other, meaningfully responding to each other. It's an important component in building successful civilizations. I know at the moment we're very tribal as a species. We're separating various ethnicities and so on. Okay, it's all very primitive in my view. Okay, we are but one human family, and we have a responsibility to each other to ensure that no human being suffers. I say again, we are but one human family, and we have a responsibility to ensure that all human beings can live in dignity and no longer suffers. And we have it within our gift, our capacities, our ability to deliver that vision. Could we take care of each other, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of gender, regardless of religious affiliation, regardless of your social standing, we strengthen global civilization. I know there are those on the extreme, whether it be capitalist or communist or whatever, who want to engage in exclusivity, elitism. I know they've always existed in human societies. We can't help such, myopic, short-sighted, narcissistic, self-centered, selfish behavior, hubris. That's simply, again, a part of the human condition. We can't help that. Okay. The overwhelming majority of human beings I encounter, men and women, young men and young women, boys and girls that I encounter, are simply good people. Simply good people. And just want to live and grow in so many ways, realize their personal potential. If we give them the right condition, they'll be good to each other, good to themselves, good to each other. We need a more wholesome society, not one that forces people to work long hours and devote very little to their own personal development. That's unhealthy. And it's part of the current system we have, which forces and imposes that behavior on far too many people. We can do better as a species. We will do better. And I just wanted to again mention this alien object, 3I Atlas. Google it. Forgive me. Use your search engine. Forgive me. Use your search engine or whatever. Yeah. Discover what it is. 3I Atlas. I'm anticipating there are knowledge to be shared. Haha. I know. Do the research. Open your eyes. We may well discover in our lifetime that our species is not alone. Mhm. We can finally grow up, remember that we are but one people, that our species is not alone. For some, I know it'd be unnerving because the petty tribalism that pervades, elitism that pervades, means that they think they lose status. I know. I get that. Okay. Actually, and I said at the beginning of the podcast, if human beings were the only intelligent entities in the whole of the universe, then the universe has big problems. But the likelihood of that being the case, that human beings are the only intelligence in the whole of the universe, is so infinitesimally small as to be laughable, which is even more reason why shows such as this, the Motivator Show, which encourages human cooperation, collaboration, empathy for your fellow man and woman, okay, and doing away with deficit, scarcity, food, water, shelter, education, health. Okay, we have it within our capacity to eradicate these things, so that all human beings have the opportunity to realize their potential, and in doing so, we will accelerate human evolution, social evolution. You don't need to be an expert to see that it's blindly obvious. You don't need to be an expert. But for some, I know it's unnerving. I get that. But that's why the Motivator Show exists. Okay. Social campaigning to do good. Okay. But encourage collaboration, cooperation amongst the human tribes. There's not one tribe is better than the other because we're all human. We all come from common African template. Okay. We're all African ultimately. Oh yeah, I've said it. We're all African ultimately. Or Nubian, if you like. Ethiopian, depending upon your interpretation of history. So I say to you, I am the motivator because this is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. If in doubt, ask questions. And to the next time, I remain the motivator.